this applies generally. This is a general principle, right? Money comes from curing pain. People are running away from pain, and that's why they buy online. People will spend more money when they're running away from pain rather than when they're going to a desired output. Does that make sense? If I told you, listen, right, I'm going to upgrade your car to a Rolls, you'll probably be very happy. But if I told you, I'm going to take your car away, you're not going to be able to get to work, that would worry you a lot more. Does that make sense? Because if you get put in a situation which is not comfortable, which you can't do things which you need to do, then that's that. So if you're able to come and, help somebody cure, it doesn't have to be specifically a pain in that way, but if somebody has a need for you, then they're likely to, for example, use if you're a business, use your services. If for example, you're a person who's a freelancer, or a salesperson, they're able to hire you and use you for their teams. So we've established that money comes from a need curing a pain. Today, what we're in is an influencer economy. Should I tell you why this is an influencer economy? Because most of you here right now, I'm guessing, if not all of you, have seen the HijraCon, have seen the HijraCon on Instagram, have seen the HijraCon all over social media. You've opted in, you've gone to the funnel, you bought. So, brother Abu Abdullah, Allahumma barik, he's got a lot of social media influence now, Allahumma barik, and he's put this out. And to be honest, having influence over people in this day and age, having followers, is the real estate. It is really, if you're able to have a channel or some sort of online platform, you're able to monetize that. Does that make sense? So these people who've built these different, ways of platforms are able to monetize those platforms. Does that make sense? So influencers, they want to monetize their following, right? So around about what I'm trying to walk through here is the logic of how money comes from, you tending to somebody's pain, right? So we said we run an influencer economy, right? And then we said that now we're saying that influencers, they want to monetize their following, their income. They want to monetize their followers, right? Somebody has 300K on Instagram, he's going to think, how can I make money out of these 300K? There are a couple of ways, right? So number one, he can either do sponsorships, ads, etc., this kind of stuff. That's usually less ROI. That won't make them much money. Does that make sense? Or number two, they can create a product based off of their following on social media and then use their followers. And if they can make only 2% or 3% or 1% of their followers into paid customers on a product which is several thousands of dollars, such as, consultancy, courses, or coaching, and maybe their product is a couple of $1,000s, and it really tends to a pain which those followers have. For example, a fitness influencer, right? He's going to build a course, how you can get into shape in 60 days and get marriage ready, right? We're talking about that in the Islamic space, alhamdulillah, right? Somebody who basically used to have a halal business, he's going to tell you, okay, right? He might build a product if you've got a lot of audience, a big amount of an audience. He might build a product which is 4K on a full blueprint, coaching, course, everything, a full consultancy, taking you from 0 to 100, showing you the steps to build a halal business. And people will, especially in this time and making money, people want to make hijrah, etc. They will pay for that. So if somebody has 300K followers and they convert just 1% of that audience, which is 300 people, right? 300, no, that's not. My math isn't great. That's about 3,000 people. My apologies. 3,000 people, right? 3,000 people buying a $4,000 product. What is that? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. We're talking the millions here. Does that make sense? By just making 1% of their audience buy this product, right? So what am I talking about? I'm not telling you to build a huge page, right? Because that takes some time. And you can do that. That's actually a good way to make money as well. But that's something which will take time, you learning the algorithm, etc., and you being able to build a back-end product. Because remember, if you build a page or you build your own personal brand, right? That's not the end of the game. You have to build a whole business and a product behind that to monetize that. Does that make sense? So what am I telling you, right? These people are hundreds of thousands of followers, right? Especially people who are built up. And do you think they're going to be texting all of them? Do you think they're going to be using different ways to get those followers convinced in buying their product or course? Do you think that they're going to play the game, the middlemen, talking to these guys on calls, getting them to opt in, getting them to, try to actually, buy their program? No, they're not, because they have so much other problems. They have billing, they have invoicing, they have fulfillment, they have to sometimes do the coaching, they have to produce a course, they have to do all these things, right? So there's a lot of job on their end. Sure, when they launch it, they might take the first couple of calls, right? After that, if they're already making 10, 20, 30K, and they've got, hundreds of thousands of influencers to monetize, what are they going to use? They're going to use high ticket sales reps, right? So what they're going to use is they're going to hire themselves a team, just like with anything, with outsourcing, right? Look at, right, Abu Abdullah is running this event, right? He's got a team on the ground. Does that make sense? He's not doing everything. Just as somebody scales up, they want to be doing more high leverage activities, right? They want to be doing more activities. Do you think an Instagram follower with Instagram influencer with 300K does his own thumbnails? No. Just like he won't do his own sales, right? Because a lot of the time, he's already in a more mature stage. He's looking over the business. Why do people even start making money online? So they can buy their time back, so they can actually buy their hours back. Does that make sense? If you guys were to ask me, would you work 24 hours a day for 300K a month? I'd say no. What's the point of working, right? Working is so you can buy your time back. You know, working as Muslims, a lot of us, we just want to feed our families, make hijrah, live a nice life, etc. The rest of the time, we want for ibadah. So those influencers, they want to hire teams to do their sales for them. So this is what high-ticket sales reps are, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today, a potential opportunity for people, you know, brothers, giving you a bit of info on how you can potentially yourself get into the space and what it really entails. Does that make sense? Because, you know, high ticket sales reps, different, you know, roles can make, you know, a good amount of money every single month, right? So I just want you to check out a couple of different products here, right? Obviously, the point of this presentation is not to tell you, you know, specifically tell you, you know, you have to do this. As I said, there's many ways of making money online, right? But these are some of the influencers with their products, which people have got roles at. So, you know, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but that's just showing you about the demand. And you might know a lot of these different names, right? So I want to talk about how actually this works. So you guys can have some, you know, sort of intel under the hood. How is this sort of working, and how are people making money from this? Because, you know, a lot of you here who don't have a following on IG or a social platform, and have heard the explanation that I've just given on how pain can create demand, you're probably looking at this and being like, okay, this is pretty interesting. If people here can make 2 to 30K a month, you know, how does this work? So let me just give you some value, does that make sense, on how this can work, right? And obviously, before obviously I've been talking about this online. I myself, alhamdulillah, I've generated $200,000 for a company, right? And I've worked on different products as well. This is just at one company in terms of revenue. And that's how I know remote sales is a thing, alhamdulillah, which allowed me to get married at the age of 19. You know, as soon as I made my first money, 18, I had that issue, got into remote sales 19, made money, went on Sunnah Match. By the way, if you guys know the app, you know, not everyone on there is 100%, but, you know, I went on Sunnah Match. I didn't have anybody else. Like, what am I going to do? Went on Sunnah Match, made my profile, 19 years old. I kept swiping, man. Like, all these women are like 22, 23, 24, 25. Every time I send a request, I get denied. Like, what am I supposed to do? And, you know, if I put the age barrier from 18 to 20, there's like 5 profiles come up, man. In the West, women aren't really trying to get married young. So I remember that, you know, I actually, subhanallah, I obviously I found my wife on there, alhamdulillah. I'm married for almost 2 years now. I have a son, Ibrahim, and alhamdulillah. And I remember, like, the first amount of money, my father kept asking me, obviously, you know, we would have chats. He's like, why do you want money this bad? I was like, I just want to get married. Because for me, even one of the scholars of Emirat, Sheikh Aziz Farhani, was asked, should we do Hajj first or should we get married first? He said, each person looks to their own situation. If a man needs to get married first, then let him, you know, first get married. Does that make sense? Even, correct me if I'm wrong, بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. But the person is upon himself insightful. So for me, I had the end goal. It was ibadah, it was marriage. مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمُ الْبَاءَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ. I got into high ticket sales, right? I made the money for the company, you know, I made commission. I'm going to explain how now reps make money, because you're selling a product, right? It might be of an influencer, it might be of a business, and you're currently playing the middleman. So what's happening here is basically these two are high ticket sales rep roles, setters and closers, right? So what's happening here is influencers, they have warm leads. Does that make sense? They have. Sure, Sheikh. Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. So this is currently what's happening here. Does that make sense? Influencers, they have warm leads, right? They might put on IG, DM me, X to get X thing. Does that make sense? And then people will go in and they'll be interested in something, or they might use different ways. They might put a form out for something. They might use different submissions. They basically will collect customer data, and basically the first role as a high-ticket sales rep is an appointment setter. So what an appointment setter will do is he'll dial these people. Does that make sense? He'll dial, either he's DM these people, and what he'll do is he'll get them interested in the product, right? What he'll basically do is, because they're already interested, he will basically qualify them. Are they fit for the product? Can they actually buy at that price range? Where are they geographically based? Can we help them? Does that make sense? Why is the reason they fill the form? So their job is basically just to book a consultation with the closer. Now, the closer is somebody who sits on calls. Does that make sense? He's somebody who sits on actual calls. Does that make sense? And actually sells a product to this influencer business. When I'm talking about influencer, I'm talking about B2C, right? The B2B is a whole different ballgame, in high ticket sales, right? But it's the same concept with setters and closers. And what the closer will do, so the setter will set a meeting from these followers, etc. And the closer, what he'll do is he'll close these people. So he'll sell them the product on a 1 or 1.5 hour call, qualify them, go through what their pains, what they want to do, etc. Why they want this, and if they're qualified, he'll show them the product, etc. And he'll sell them the product. And a lot of this time, right, these people are in this target market. So does that make sense? So these two roles, right, the setter can get 10%. Or 5 to 10% of the sale, which is, it means if there's a $5,000 product, a setter will make $500 or $1,000 from one successful set he makes. That means if you're a setter, you make 10 successful sets, that's $5K a month. Does that make sense? If you make 20 successful sets, that can be $10K a month. Does that make sense? Or remotely, working from your phone and laptop, right? Talking, trying to get to what we discussed of the ideal situation of being in a Muslim country working remotely. A closer is the next step after somebody becomes a setter. So usually closers will be required to have more experience. So before somebody becomes a closer, they'll be required to have some more sort of experience. Does that make sense? So this is how it really works.